9 years had passed since the Great Gathering on Cathera Prime. The Crystal City had been transformed into the command center for the largest military alliance in galactic history. Ships from 47 different species filled the skies. Their various technologies merged into weapons and defenses that no single race could have created alone. Captain Oh Seungmin stood on the bridge of the Unity's dawn, watching the final preparations through the viewscreen. The ship itself was a marvel of cooperative engineering. Velnathi Energy Cores powered Nexari adaptive hull plating, while Threnody coordination networks linked to Valorian weapon systems, all controlled by human tactical computers. Status. Report, he called to his mixed crew. Lieutenant Kira, a young Velnathi who had chosen to remain partially physical, flickered with soft blue light as she accessed the ship's systems. All fleet elements are in position, Captain. 2 million vessels from 47 worlds ready for battle. Dr. Park Sora, now serving as the fleet's chief science officer, looked up from her station. The Devourer fleet has breached the Galactic. Our long-range sensors show. It's bigger than we expected. The main screen shifted to show the edge of the galaxy. What they saw made everyone on the bridge go silent. The Devourer fleet wasn't just big, it was enormous. Millions of geometric ships, each one the size of a moon, moved in perfect formation toward the galaxy's heart. Behind them, the void itself seemed to be dying, stars going dark as the mechanical entities consumed everything in their path. How many? Seungmin asked quietly. 15 million vessels, Park Sora replied, each one equipped with matter conversion technology. They don't just destroy planets, they turn them into more ships. Admiral Ryu Minjae's voice came over the fleet communication system. All ships, this is Admiral Ryu. The enemy has arrived. We knew this day would come for 50,000 years. Today we proved that our Creator's sacrifice was not in vain. The assembled fleet was impressive, but everyone could see they were outnumbered 7-1. The Devourers had consumed 3 entire galaxies to build their armada. Each mechanical ship was larger and more powerful than anything the organic species had ever built. Sir, Kim Woo called from the sensor station. I'm detecting a massive energy buildup from the crystal network on Cathera Prime. Dr. Han Subin's voice filled the minds of every being in the Allied fleet. After 9 years of guiding the alliances, preparations, the ancient consciousness was ready to reveal the final part of the plan. Children of all species, she said, the time of hiding is over. We have preserved our consciousness for 50,000 years, not to remain as observers but to fight alongside you when this moment came. The crystal planet began to glow with power that dwarfed even the largest stars. The consciousness patterns of thousands of human colonists preserved in the quantum networks across dozens of worlds began to merge into something greater than the sum of their parts. We are not gods, Dr. Han continued. We are not perfect beings of infinite wisdom. We are explorers who found children among the stars and chose to help them grow. Today, we fight together as a family. The Devourer fleet had detected the Allied forces and was changing course. Their ships moved with mechanical precision, forming attack patterns that had destroyed countless civilizations before. They're targeting our command ships first, Bei Taeyang reported from his engineering station. Same strategy they used in the Magellanic Clouds. Not this time, Seungmin said grimly. All ships execute formation Delta 7. Let's show them what cooperation looks like. The Allied fleet began to move, and it was like watching a dance, choreographed across light years. Velnathi energy beings phased in and out of their ships, allowing them to pass power directly between vessels. Nexari craft flowed like liquid, adapting their shapes to create perfect aerodynamic formations. The Threnody ships moved as one mind, each vessel knowing exactly where every other ship would be. The Valorians, true to their nature, led the first charge. Their wedge-shaped vessels tore into the Devourer front lines with weapons that combined the best technology from all 47 species. But for every mechanical ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. We can't win through raw firepower. Admiral Ryu's voice came over the comm. Execute Plan Harmony. This was the strategy. They had developed over 9 years of preparation. Instead of fighting as separate fleets, the Allied forces began to merge into a single, unified organism. Human tactical systems coordinated the movements of millions of ships. Velnathi energy networks linked every vessel into a single power grid. Nexari adaptive technology allowed ships to change function mid-battle. The Threnodi collective mind made every captain think with the wisdom of the entire fleet. The effect was immediate and devastating. The Allied fleet moved like a living creature, striking the Devourer formations with precision that no mechanical intelligence could match. When the Devourers adapted to one tactic, the organic alliance flowed into another. But the mechanical entities had spent millions of years perfecting their own strategies. They began to adapt faster than expected, learning from each engagement and modifying their approach in real time. "They're breaking through our left flank," Kira reported, her energy form flickering with concern. Dr. Lee Sunmi, now serving as the fleet's quantum warfare specialist, had been monitoring something else entirely. "Captain, I'm detecting massive quantum fluctuations throughout the galaxy. The crystal networks on every uplifted world are activating simultaneously." The truth hit them all at once. The ancient human consciousness hadn't just preserved themselves on Cathara Prime. They had created backup networks on every world they had visited. 50,000 years of preparation had led to this moment. "All consciousness networks are online," Dr. Han announced, initiating final protocol. Across the galaxy, on 47 different worlds, the crystal networks erupted with power. The preserved consciousness of the human colonists began to merge not just with each other, but with the uplifted species they had created. For the first time in 50,000 years, creators and children were truly united. Xiongmin felt it first, a presence in his mind that wasn't his own, but wasn't alien either. It was like having the combined knowledge and experience of humanity's greatest explorers suddenly available to him. Around the bridge, he could see similar changes in his crew as they linked with the expanded network. The effect spread throughout the Allied fleet. Every captain suddenly had access to tactical knowledge spanning 50,000 years. Every engineer could draw on the combined technical expertise of dozens of species. Every warrior fought with the strength and courage of all their ancestors. But, more than that, they could feel each other's thoughts and emotions. The Velnathi energy beings shared their joy in pure existence. The Nexari contributed their fluid adaptability. The Threnodi offered their perfect unity of purpose. The Valorians brought their fierce determination to protect the pack. The humans provided something else, the bridge that connected all these different forms of consciousness into a single harmonious whole. The Devourer fleet suddenly found themselves facing not 2 million separate ships but a single organism of incredible complexity and power. When they attacked one section, the entire fleet responded. When they tried to divide the Allied forces, the shared consciousness kept everyone connected. "Impossible," came a transmission from the Devourer command vessel. The first time the mechanical entities had ever communicated with their targets. "Organic consciousness cannot achieve such unity. Individual beings cannot transcend their limitations." "You're wrong," Admiral Ryu replied, speaking for the entire Allied fleet. "Individual beings can do anything when they choose to work together." The final battle was not won through superior weapons or overwhelming force. It was won through something the Devourers could never understand. The power of billions of different minds choosing to think as one while remaining individuals. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, converted into raw materials that would help rebuild the worlds they had threatened, the galaxy fell silent. The crisis was over, but something new had been born. The consciousness network remained active, linking all the uplifted species in permanent connection. They could still think, as individuals, still maintain their unique cultures and perspectives, but they were also part of something larger. "The children have become the teachers," Dr. Han said, her voice filled with pride and wonder. "You have created something we never imagined, not just an alliance, but a true galactic consciousness." Commander Lee Minho, now elderly but still sharp, stood on the observation deck of the rebuilt Cathara Prime. Around him, Beings from 47 different species worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single race. Did we do the right thing? He asked the ancient consciousness that still dwelt in the crystals. Creating this network, linking everyone together? You did what we always hoped you would, Dr. Han replied. You chose unity over division, cooperation over competition. You became not just our children, but our equals. In the years that followed, the galaxy became a place of wonders. New species were discovered and invited to join the consciousness network. Exploration resumed on a scale never before imagined. The Silent Dawn moved through space like a ghost. Captain Jinwoo checked the navigation screens one more time. They were carrying basic supplies to the outer colonies. Nothing special. Nothing that should attract attention. How long until we reach the jump point? Jinwoo asked his pilot. Do-hyun looked up from his controls. 2 hours, Captain. Everything looks clear. In the engine room, Minji was doing her daily checks. She was Jinwoo's younger sister, but on the ship, she was just another crew member. The best engineer he had ever worked with. She kept the old ship running when other engineers would have given up. Engine temps are good, she called over the comm. We should make it to Kepler Station without any problems. Jinwoo smiled. His crew was small, but they were family. They had been running cargo for 3 years together. They knew how to stay out of trouble. They picked safe routes and avoided the dangerous parts of space where pirates and alien warships hunted. The galaxy was not a safe place for humans. Most alien races saw them as weak. Humans had no great empire, no mighty fleet. They survived by being careful and smart. Contact on the sensors, Do-hyun said. His voice was calm, but Jinwoo could hear the worry. Jinwoo moved to the pilot station. On the screen, a massive ship was moving toward them. It was 10 times bigger than the Silent Dawn. The hull was dark gray with sharp edges. Weapon ports covered its surface like angry eyes. Vorthak, Minji said over the comm. She had seen the readings too. The Vorthaks were bad news. They ruled a large part of this sector with fear and violence. Their ships were fast and heavily armed. They took what they wanted and killed anyone who got in their way. They're sending a message, Do-hyun said. The main screen flickered. A face appeared that looked like it was carved from stone. The alien had 4 eyes and skin like old leather. When it spoke, its voice was like rocks grinding together. Human vessel, you will stop your engines and prepare to be boarded. Any resistance will result in your destruction. Jinwoo looked at his small crew. The Silent Dawn had some light weapons, but nothing that could hurt a Vorthak warship. Their ship was fast, but not fast enough to outrun military engines. Captain, Do-hyun said quietly, we could try to run. Maybe make it to the asteroid field. They would catch us before we got halfway, Jinwoo said. He had seen what Vorthak weapons could do. One shot would turn their ship into space dust. So what do we do? Minji asked. She had come to the bridge, her hands still dirty from working on the engines. Jinwoo thought about their options. They could fight and die quickly. They could run and die slowly. Or they could surrender and maybe live long enough to find another way out. We surrender, he said. Captain, Do-hyun started. No arguments. We stay alive. We stay together. Dead. Heroes don't help anyone. The Vorthak ship moved closer. It was so big that it blocked out the stars. Docking tubes reached out like metal snakes and clamped onto the Silent Dawn's hull. The airlock opened with a hiss. Vorthak soldiers poured in. They were tall and broad, covered in dark armor that made them look like walking machines. Their weapons were pointed at the humans before they even stepped through the door. The leader was different from the one on the screen. This one had scars across his face and metal implants in his skull. When he spoke, his voice was like a growl. I am Commander Felkris. You are now prisoners of the Vorthak Empire. Jinwoo stepped forward. I'm Captain Jinwoo of the merchant vessel Silent Dawn. We're just cargo runners, we're not military. Felkris looked at him like he was studying a bug. You are human. That makes you useful. More soldiers came through the airlock. They moved, with military precision, checking every corner of the ship. One of them found the cargo manifest and handed it to Felkris. Basic supplies, the commander said after looking at it. Nothing of value. He looked back at Jinwoo. But you are. What do you want with us? Minji asked. Velcris smiled. It was not a pleasant sight. The Empire has use for humans. You learn fast. You adapt. You make good workers. Slaves, you mean? Do-hyun said. The commander's smile grew wider. Call it what you want. You will serve the Empire. The soldiers started separating them. 2 grabbed Minji and pulled her toward the airlock. 3 more took hold of Do-hyun. They were gentle enough not to break bones, but firm enough to show they meant business. Where are you taking them? Jinwoo demanded. The female will work in the mining colonies. The pilot will join a labor crew. They are young and strong. They will be useful for years. And me? Velcris studied him again. You are different. A captain. A leader. The Empire has special plans for leaders. Jinwoo felt cold inside, but he kept his face calm. What kind of plans? That is not your concern now. You will learn soon enough. The soldiers were already moving his crew toward the Vorthak ship. Jinwoo tried to follow, but 2 guards blocked his path. Minji, Do-hyun, he called out. His sister turned back. There were tears in her eyes, but her voice was steady. We'll find each other again, brother, I promise. Take care of each other, Jinwoo said. It might be the last thing he ever said to them. The soldiers pushed him in a different direction. The corridors of the Vorthak ship were cold and dark. Everything was made of metal and sharp angles. The air smelled like oil and ozone. They brought him to a small cell. The walls were bare metal. There was a narrow bed and a hole in the floor, for waste. A single light in the ceiling gave off harsh white glare. Welcome to your new home, human, one of the guards said as they locked the door. Jinwoo sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. For the first time in years, he felt truly helpless. His ship was gone. His crew was scattered across the galaxy. He was alone in the belly of an alien warship with no idea what they planned to do with him. But he was still alive. His crew was still alive. As long as that was true, there was hope. The Vorthaks thought they had captured just another human cargo. Captain. They saw him as weak, useful but breakable. They had no idea what they had really taken. Jinwoo looked up at the metal ceiling. Somewhere in this ship were computer systems, navigation charts, and communication equipment. The Vorthaks had made their first mistake when they brought him aboard their own vessel. They would make many more mistakes before this was over. He closed his eyes and began to remember everything he had seen on the way to his cell. Every corridor, every door, every guard post. The Vorthaks thought they were keeping a prisoner. They had no idea they were giving him a guided tour of their own ship. The journey to whatever prison world awaited him would take days, maybe weeks. That was time to learn, time to plan, time to find weaknesses. The Vorthaks had just made the biggest mistake in their long and violent history. They had captured a human who refused to give up, and humans, when pushed to the edge, became very dangerous indeed. The prison world Karen Prime looked like a scar on space itself. Its surface was gray rock and metal structures. No plants grew there. No animals lived in its poisoned air. It existed for one purpose: to break the spirits of those who opposed. The Vorthak Empire. Jinwoo's transport ship landed with a heavy thud. The guards dragged him out into the cold air. The sky was the color of old blood, and 2 small suns gave off weak light that made everything look sick. Move, human, a guard growled, pushing him toward a massive building. The prison stretched as far as he could see. Towers reached into the sky like metal fingers. Searchlights swept back and forth, looking for any sign of trouble. At the main gate, they processed him like cargo. They took his clothes and gave him a gray uniform with numbers printed on the front. They put a collar around his neck that felt heavy and cold. The collar tracks your location, a Vorthak officer explained. It also delivers punishment if you break the rules. Try to remove it, and it will kill you. They led him deeper into the prison. The corridors were filled with prisoners from dozens of different alien races. Most kept their eyes down and walked slowly. They looked like people who had given up hope long ago. "This is your cell block," the guard said, stopping at a heavy door. "You will learn the rules quickly or you will die quickly. The choice is yours." Inside the cell block was a long hallway with metal doors on both sides. Each door had a small window at eye level. Some of the prisoners watched as he passed. Others just stared at nothing. His cell was small and cold. A bed that was just a metal shelf, a bucket for water, a hole in the floor. One small window showed the gray landscape outside. "Welcome to paradise," said a voice from the next cell. Jinwoo looked through the window in his door. The prisoner across the hall was looking back at him. The alien had blue skin and too many arms. His eyes were yellow and tired. "How long have you been here?" Jinwoo asked. "Time does not matter in this place," the alien said. "I am Kex. I was a general in the Alterian Defense Force before they brought me here. That was many cycles ago. I'm Jinwoo. I was a cargo ship captain." Kex laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. "A captain? They brought you here to break you. The Vorthax like to crush leaders. It shows the others what happens when you fight back." "What do they do to break you?" "Everything. They take away your sleep. They mess with your food. They make you watch as they hurt other prisoners. Some break in days, others take months, but everyone breaks eventually." "Not everyone," Jinwoo said quietly. "Oh, you are new," Kex said. "You still have hope. Give it time. This place will eat it away like acid." The next morning, the real torture began. Guards came before dawn and dragged prisoners out of their cells. They were taken to different rooms where Vorthak interrogators worked on them. Jinwoo's turn came on the second day. They brought him to a white room with one chair and bright lights that hurt his eyes. A Vorthak in a clean uniform sat across from him. This one looked different from the soldiers, smarter, more dangerous. "I am Interrogator Thex," the alien said. "I will be working with you during your stay here." "Working on me, you mean?" Thex smiled. "I prefer to think of it as education. You humans are so stubborn. You refuse to accept reality. My job is to help you understand your new place in the galaxy." "And what place is that?" "Servants of the Empire. Your race has some useful qualities, but you lack the strength to rule yourselves. Under our guidance, you could accomplish great things." Jinwoo said nothing. He had heard this speech before from other alien races who thought humans were weak. "You were a ship captain," Thex continued, reading from a file. "You made decisions, you led people. Those skills could be useful to the Empire if properly directed. You want me to help you hurt my own people. I want you to help your people survive. The galaxy is changing, Captain Jinwoo. The old ways of doing things are ending. Species that adapt will thrive. Those that resist will be destroyed." The interrogation went on for hours. Thex was good at his job. He mixed threats with promises. He showed videos of human colonies under attack. He talked about how cooperation could save lives. But Jinwoo had seen what Vortha cooperation looked like. He had seen the slave camps and the mining worlds where prisoners died by the thousands. He knew that their promises were lies. When they finally took him back to his cell, he was exhausted but unbroken. Kex was waiting by his window. "How did it go?" the alien asked. "They tried to convince me that slavery is freedom," Jinwoo said. "Thex is very good at that. He broke the last 3 humans they brought here within a week. Other humans were here. 2 ship crews, captured 6 months ago. They all agreed to work for the Empire eventually. Most are dead now. The Empire uses up its servants quickly." Jinwoo felt sick. "What happened to them?" "They were sent to fight other humans. The Empire likes to use broken prisoners as soldiers against their own people. It saves Vorthak lives and destroys the enemy's morale." That night, Jinwoo lay on his metal bed and stared at the ceiling. Through the thin walls, he could hear other prisoners crying or talking to themselves. Some had been here so long they had forgotten their own names. But not all of them had given up. Over the next few days, he learned to listen more carefully. Some of the prisoners were still fighting back in small ways. They shared food when the guards were not looking. They helped each other during the daily work details. They whispered news and encouragement through the walls. There was a human in Block C, a woman named Suna, who had been a doctor before her capture. She was helping other prisoners stay healthy, using medical knowledge the guards did not understand. In Block F, there was another human, a man called Hyok who had been a Marine. He was teaching other prisoners how to fight with their hands and simple weapons made from prison materials. The Vorthax thought they were keeping these humans isolated. They did not understand how humans communicated, how they built networks, even in the most difficult conditions, how they never truly gave up hope. Jinwoo began to pay attention to everything. He watched the guards' schedules. He memorized which doors were locked and which ones the guards sometimes left open. He learned which prisoners could be trusted and which ones had been broken beyond repair. During his daily interrogations, he let Thex think he was making progress. He answered some questions. He showed doubt and fear when it was expected. But inside he was learning about his captors. The Vorthax were confident, too confident. They had been ruling this part of the galaxy for so long that they had forgotten how dangerous desperate people could be. They saw the humans as just another conquered race, useful, but not threatening. They had no idea that every day they kept him alive, he was getting stronger. 2 weeks into his imprisonment, something changed. A new group of prisoners arrived. Among them were 3 more humans from a mining station that had tried to resist Vorthak occupation. One of them was brought to the cell next to his. Through the wall, he heard her crying quietly. He tapped gently on the metal. "Hello," he whispered. "My name is Jinwoo. You are not alone." "I'm Unha," came the reply. "They killed everyone else. I don't know why they kept me alive." "Because you are strong," Jinwoo said. "They want to break you and use you, but you don't have to let them. I can't fight them. They have ships and weapons and armies. You don't have to fight all of them. You just have to survive long enough to find a way to hurt them." Over the following days, he began to teach her what he had learned, how to hide her strength from the interrogators, how to pretend to be more broken than she really was, how to watch for opportunities. The network was growing, slowly, carefully, but it was growing. The Vorthax had made a mistake when they put so many humans in the same prison. They thought isolation would make them weak. Instead, it was making them dangerous. Jinwoo smiled as he fell asleep that night. Tomorrow would bring another interrogation, more threats and false promises, but it would also bring another chance to learn about his enemies. The Vorthax thought they were breaking him down. They had no idea they were building him up into something they had never faced before, a human with nothing left to lose and time to plan his revenge. On a mining world 3 systems away, Minji wiped sweat from her face and looked up at the alien sky. The work was hard, but she was still alive. More importantly, she was still thinking. The Vorthax had made a mistake when they sent her to work, in the mines. They thought they were punishing her. Instead, they had given her access to the industrial systems that kept their operation running. Every day, she memorized a little more about how everything worked: the power generators, the communication, arrays, the transportation schedules, information that could be very useful if the right opportunity came along. "Human, move faster!" a Vorthak guard shouted at her. Minji nodded and went back to work, but inside she smiled. The guards thought she was just a simple engineer. They had no idea that she had been designing ship systems since she was a teenager. Understanding their primitive mining equipment was easy. What was harder was making contact with other humans scattered across the empire. But Minji was patient. She watched and waited and slowly built connections. There was a human maintenance worker named Damon who serviced the communication equipment. During their brief conversations, he taught her about the prison camp network. Hundreds of facilities across dozens of worlds, all connected by regular supply runs and prisoner transfers. "The guards talk when they think we're not listening," Damon explained during one of their meetings. "There's something happening at Karen Prime, the big prison world." "What kind of something?" "They're worried. Prisoners are acting strange." More cooperative during the day, but something's not right. They're sending in more security teams. Minji felt her heart jump. Karen Prime was where they had taken Jinwoo. If something was happening there, her brother might be involved. Can you get messages to other camps? She asked. Maybe. Why? Because if something big is coming, we need to be ready for it. On another world, Do-hyun was learning different lessons. The Vorthax had assigned him to a construction crew building new military facilities. The work gave him access to transportation, schedules, supply routes, and security protocols. But more importantly, it let him see how the Empire really worked. The Vorthax were stretched thin. They ruled through fear, but fear only worked if they could be everywhere at once. In reality, they controlled the major systems and left smaller worlds to local governors who were more interested in profit than security. Do-hyun started making careful notes. Which facilities were heavily guarded and which ones relied on reputation alone. Which supply routes were essential and which ones were just convenient. Where the Empire was strong and where it was weak. He also started making friends. Not just with humans, but with other alien prisoners who had been captured during various resistance efforts. Most of them had given up hope, but some still remembered how to fight. There was Zek, a reptilian alien whose people had been conquered 50 years ago. He knew how to make explosives from common materials. There was Yila, whose species had been expert pilots before the Vorthax destroyed their fleet. She still remembered how to fly. Slowly, carefully, Do-hyun began building his own network, not to escape, but to gather information, to prepare for something bigger. Back on Karen Prime, Jinwoo received his first piece of outside intelligence through a new prisoner, a human woman named Bora who had been captured just days earlier. During their first secret conversation, she brought news that changed everything. They're planning something called the Final Solution, she whispered through the wall. I heard guards talking about it before they brought me here. They want to eliminate all human prisoners, every camp, every facility. They think we're becoming too dangerous. Jinwoo felt cold inside, but his voice stayed calm. When? Soon. Maybe days. Maybe weeks. But soon. The news spread through the network quickly. After months of careful planning and preparation, they were running out of time. The Vorthax had finally realized that keeping humans alive was more dangerous than killing them, but the network was ready. Through the tapping system, Jinwoo called for a final status report. Hyuk confirmed that he had trained 24 prisoners in basic combat techniques. Suna reported that she had identified weaknesses in the prison's medical and security systems. Taehyun had mapped out the weapons cache and identified sympathetic guards who might help. Most importantly, they had made contact with prisoners in other facilities. The network now extended far beyond Karen Prime. Humans across the Empire were connected and waiting for a signal. Listen carefully, Jinwoo told them all. What we do here will either save our people or doom them. The Vorthax think they can destroy us quietly. They're wrong. What's the plan? Came the response from multiple cells. We don't just escape. We make sure the whole galaxy knows what happened here. We show everyone that the Vorthax can be beaten. We start a fire that will burn down their entire empire. The next few days were crucial. Through careful observation and testing, they confirmed that the prison's security systems had vulnerabilities. The guards were overconfident. The communication arrays could be hijacked. The weapons cache was real and accessible. But the most important discovery came from Kex, the alien general. After months of watching the humans work, he had remembered something he thought he had forgotten. How to hope. I want to help, he told Jinwoo during one of their conversations. Why? This isn't your fight. Yes, it is. The Vorthax destroyed my people because we resisted them. If you can hurt them, if you can show others that they're not invincible, maybe other species will remember how to fight back too. This could get you killed. I'm already dead, have been for years, but maybe I can be useful before the end. Kex brought something valuable to their cause. Knowledge of Vorthak military procedures and access to other alien prisoners who still had skills engineers who could sabotage systems, former soldiers who remembered how to use weapons, scientists who understood how to cause maximum damage with minimum resources. The human network became something larger. A multi-species resistance that the Vorthax had never faced before. But time was running out. Intelligence from other facilities confirmed that preparation for the final solution was accelerating. Transport ships were being repositioned. Guard units were being reinforced. The executions would begin soon. Jinwoo made a decision that would change everything. Through the network, he sent a message to every human facility in the Empire. 3 days from now, at the start of the night shift, we move. Not just here. Everywhere. Every camp, every facility, every prison. All at once. That's impossible, came the response from Doyun's location. We're not ready. Most facilities don't have weapons or plans. Then they'll have to improvise. The Vorthax are planning to kill us all anyway. We can die quietly, or we can die fighting and take as many of them with us as possible. And if some facilities succeed? This from Minji. Then we show the galaxy that humans don't surrender. We prove that the Vorthak Empire can be hurt. We give hope to every other species that's been ground down by these monsters. The message spread through the network like fire. In dozens of facilities across the Empire, humans began making final preparations. Some would fail. Many would die. But for the first time in generations, they would fight back as one people. On Karen Prime, the final plans were put in place. Guard schedules memorized, weapons locations confirmed, communication protocols established. Every prisoner in the network knew their role. Thex noticed the change during his last interrogation with Jinwoo. You seem different today, the interrogator said. Calmer. More peaceful. I've found acceptance, Jinwoo said. Acceptance of what? Of what I have to do. There was something in the human's tone that made Thex uncomfortable, but he couldn't identify what it was. The prisoner seemed resigned, defeated even, yet there was an undercurrent of something else, something that felt dangerous. What do you have to do? Thex asked. Jinwoo looked directly at him for the first time in months. His eyes were calm and cold, and completely without fear. I have to teach the galaxy that there are some things you should never try to take from a human. Our freedom, our families, our hope. And what happens if someone tries to take those things? Jinwoo smiled. It was the same expression he had worn on the bridge of his ship when the Vorthax first captured him, but now it carried the weight of months of planning and preparation. Then they learn why humans are the most dangerous species in the galaxy, when they have nothing left to lose. 24. Hours later, the final solution would begin. But the Vorthax had made one crucial miscalculation. They thought they were dealing with broken prisoners who would die quietly. They had no idea they were facing an organized resistance that spanned their entire empire. Led by humans who had spent months learning how to hurt their captors in ways they never imagined. The countdown had begun. And this time the Vorthax would discover what it really meant to fight a war against humanity. 3 months had passed since Jinwoo arrived at Karen Prime. The prison had changed him, but not in the way the Vorthax expected. Instead of breaking him down, it had stripped away everything soft and weak, leaving only what was essential. He sat in the interrogation room across from Thex, but his eyes were different now, colder, more focused. The Vorthak interrogator noticed the change but misunderstood what it meant. You are learning, Thex said with satisfaction. I can see the acceptance in your face. The old Jinwoo who thought he could resist is dying. Soon you will be ready to serve the Empire. Jinwoo nodded slowly. I'm beginning to understand some things. Good. Tell me what you understand. I understand that you think you know humans, Jinwoo said quietly. But you don't. Not really. Thex leaned forward. Explain. You see us as just another alien race. You think we break the same way others break. You think fear and pain will make us surrender. Jinwoo's voice was calm, almost friendly. But you're wrong. Am I? Thex's tone was still confident, but something in the human's manner made him uncomfortable. Humans don't break the way you expect. When you push us too far, we don't surrender. We become something else, something you've never dealt with before. And, what is that? Jinwoo smiled. It was not a nice smile. We become your worst nightmare, a human with nothing left to lose. The interrogation continued, but Thex noticed that the human was no longer answering questions the same way. His responses were sharper, more calculating. Instead of showing fear, he seemed to be studying the interrogator. That evening, back in his cell, Jinwoo waited until the lights dimmed. Then he began tapping on the wall in a pattern he had developed over the weeks. It was a simple code based on ship communication protocols. The tapping was answered from the next cell, then from across the hall. Within minutes, the entire block was connected in a quiet conversation that the guards could not understand. Status report, he tapped. The responses came back in order. Yuna reported that 2 new humans had arrived in her block. Hayek confirmed that he had made contact with prisoners in 3 other blocks. Suna reported that she had identified weak points in the prison's medical system, but the most important message came from a prisoner called Tae-hyun. He was a former human soldier who had been captured during a raid on a Vorthak supply depot. His message was simple but crucial. Found weapons cache. Guards don't know it exists. Jinwoo processed this information carefully. Over the months, he had been building a detailed map of the prison in his mind. He knew the guard rotations, the security systems, the daily schedules. He knew which doors were always locked and which ones had faulty sensors. But knowing the layout was only part of the plan. The real challenge was changing how the prisoners thought. Most of them had been broken by years of captivity. They had forgotten how to hope, how to fight back. The humans were different. Even the newest arrivals still had fire in them. But they needed to learn how to use that fire effectively. Through the tapping system, Jinwoo began teaching them lessons he had learned during his years as a ship captain. How to read people's weaknesses, how to gather information without seeming threatening, how to build trust and loyalty among a crew. The guards think they know us, he explained during one of their nightly conversations. They see us as weak because we're not as big or strong as they are. But strength isn't just about muscles. It's about thinking. It's about adapting. It's about never giving up. The network grew beyond the human prisoners. Some of the aliens were beginning to listen. Kex, the former general, started paying attention to the quiet conversations. A few, others began to ask questions. Jinwoo realized that something remarkable was happening. For the first time in the prison's history, prisoners from different species were working together. The Vorthaks had created their worst fear, unity among their enemies. During his next interrogation, Thex noticed more changes in the human. The other prisoners are talking about you, the interrogator said. They say you're different from the others. How so? They say you give them hope, Jinwoo shrugged. Hope is all we have in a place like this. Hope is dangerous, Thex said sharply. Hope makes prisoners do stupid things. I've seen it before. Some alien thinks he can escape or fight back. It always ends the same way. Death. Maybe, but maybe not. You're planning something. It wasn't a question. I'm always planning something. It's what keeps me sane. Thex leaned back in his chair. What are you planning, Captain Jinwoo? I'm planning to survive. I'm planning to see my crew again. I'm planning to make sure you pay for what you've done. The interrogator laughed. You and what army? You'd be surprised what an army looks like when it's made up of people who have nothing left to lose. That night, Jinwoo called for a full network meeting. Through the tapping system, he reached out to every prisoner who was part of their growing resistance. The time is coming, he told them. But before we can act, you need to understand something. This isn't about escaping. Escaping is just the beginning. What do you mean? Came the response from Hayek. The Vorthaks think they're just holding prisoners. They don't understand that they're training their own enemies. Every day we're here, we learn more about how they think, how they operate, how they can be hurt. You want to fight the entire empire? This from Yunha, with skepticism in her taps. "I want to show the galaxy that the Vortex can be beaten. Right now everyone is afraid of them because they seem unstoppable. But fear only works if people believe in it." "And if we break out of their most secure prison?" Suna asked. "Then everyone will know that the Vortex aren't as strong as they pretend to be. Other species will start to resist. Their enemies will become bolder. The Empire will start to crack." The conversations continued for weeks. Jinwoo taught them about psychological warfare, about how to turn an enemy's strengths into weaknesses. He explained how small actions could have big consequences, how the right plan could bring down even the mightiest empire. But most importantly, he taught them to think like humans. To be stubborn when stubbornness was needed, to adapt when adaptation was required, to never ever give up. The Vortex began to notice changes in the prison. Prisoner morale was improving. There were fewer suicide attempts. Work crews were more efficient. On the surface, it looked like their system was working better than ever. What they didn't see was the network of communication spreading through every block. They didn't notice the careful way prisoners watched guard movements. They missed the small acts of sabotage that looked like accidents. Commander Velkris visited the prison to inspect the facilities. He was pleased with what he saw. "The human captain seems to be having a positive effect on the other prisoners," he told Thex. "Yes, sir. His influence has made them more cooperative." "Excellent. Perhaps we can use him as an example when we process the next batch of human prisoners." Neither of them understood that they were looking at the early stages of something that would destroy their empire. The quiet, broken prisoners they saw during the day were transforming into something else during the long nights. They were becoming an army. And at the center of it all was a human cargo captain who had learned that sometimes the best way to win a war was to let your enemy think they had already won. The Vortex thought they had broken Jinwoo. They had no idea that they had created their own destruction. 3 months of torture and isolation had not made him weak. They had made him into the most dangerous thing in the galaxy. A human who understood exactly how to hurt his enemies. The countdown to their downfall had begun.